Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kate, this is The Mystic in the Woods, and today we are doing my first ever VR, and we're going to talk about my favorite mass market decks. So this is a VR to Garden Goddess Tarot and Rose Honey Ritual, so I'll make sure those links are below. And this is the only 10 decks tag revisited, but using only mass market decks. So these are like my top 10 mass market decks. Now they did say that if you were going to choose like the Thoth or the Rider-Waite-Smith, that those didn't count. I didn't grab the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. I would actually not use the typical Centennial version. I would go with, I think it's over there, the Wiser Tarot somewhere. Like if I was going to keep a mass market version of the Rider-Waite-Smith, that's the one that I would keep, but it's not on this list. So we're going to start with Tarot. We're going to move into Oracle. The last few are probably going to be split-second decisions because I can't decide. And surprisingly, there's like a variety of art styles and uses and it's like a very versatile list, surprisingly. I would have thought there would have been more of a theme, I guess. But so the first one is the Hush Tarot. Now, not only is this my favorite mass market deck, it's also like one of my top 3 favorite decks ever, just even if we were going to talk about indie decks as well. I love this deck. It takes a little while to get to know. It's not one that like I could read with right out of the box. I had to really like get to know it, spend some time with it. I love the guidebook. It's little, but it has a lot of really interesting takes on the card meanings. I love the art. I love how earthy it is. I love that it's not a straight shooter. So it's very honest, but like I can spend 10 minutes with one card and just keep getting more and more information out of it. I love this deck. I don't know what else to say about it, except that I just really love it. I should probably just do like a full review or something. Hush Tarot, I use it for shadow work. I use it for daily draws. This is the one that likes to work for me when I am asking about business or work questions. It likes to come with me everywhere I go. Like it lives in my purse and it just travels around with me. So this is just a deck that like I love, and I would never ever want to be without this deck. Even if you told me you can only pick 3 decks, Tarot and Oracle total, this would probably still be on that list. So I love this deck. And it's one of the few decks I have that I actually have like a separate special leather pouch for too. Okay, so then the next deck, Tarot, that for mass markets is going to be Tarot of the Abyss. And this deck I chose just based on versatility. Like this is one of the most versatile decks in my collection, especially when we're talking about mass market. It's also one of the easiest decks in my collection to read. Like this one I could just read right out of the box. It's very intuitive, but the traditional meanings are still easy to see. I think it is appropriate for a beginner or a more seasoned reader. I use this a ton when I'm reading for other people, like a ton. I do read for other people with other decks also, but ever since this one came into my collection, when I'm reading for other people, there's like a 90% chance that this one is one of the decks I'm using. So for that reason alone, I would want to keep it because I do read for other people, and so I would want to make sure that I have a tarot deck that is very versatile, that can read on any topic, that's very intuitive, that's very easy, that's very social and chatty, right? So that would be Tarot of the Abyss for me. I would definitely keep this one. The Lightseers Tarot I do have. It didn't make this list. It could almost fill that spot of versatility, intuitive, easy to read. But honestly, the color saturation in there is like a little bit much for me. So the Tarot of the Abyss definitely beat that out, but just as like a quick side note that the Lightseers Tarot could have fit that gap. I like Tarot of the Abyss a lot more. Okay, so the third tarot deck that was a no-brainer for me was Tarot of the Hidden Realms. And so I'm just noticing also that there's like a really good variety of like new decks and older decks on my list as well. So that's interesting. Anyway, Tarot of the Hidden Realms, I think, right? I don't use this deck very often. And I use this deck almost exclusively when I'm working with the land and I'm working with land spirits. I know that this is a Fae deck, but for me, it reads like the land embodied. And I love the guidebook. Like, the guidebook has really helped me to understand a couple of cards that I was struggling with. I love that the guidebook has like a little story for each card, and then also like the divinatory meaning. I don't love the card stock personally, and just because of how I am as a reader, this deck also took some time to get to know. Like, the up-close faces did not make it easier for me to read. Whereas for some people, like, it's very easy for them to read a deck like this where it's all up close and personal, and that's not the case for me. However, if I was going to pick 10 mass market decks only, this would absolutely make the list. It still might even make my top 10 list, even just in general. Even though I only really use it like when I'm working with the land and I'm working with land spirits, I still think that I would keep it just for that reason. Like, it's a very niche-y deck for me, but it's a very important deck, and I would not want to be without this one. Okay, so then those are my 3 tarot decks. We're going to wait till the end, and I might have another tarot deck. I'm having trouble kind of like committing. Okay, so we've got Tarot of the Hidden Realms, Tarot of the Abyss, and the Hush Tarot as the 3 tarot decks that I would absolutely keep. Like, top 3 mass market decks for sure for me. Also, side note, I love the little spread in the book, the Self-Binding Influences spread. When I read with set position meanings, there's a very good chance that that's the spread I'm using. Okay, so then let's move into oracle decks that I know for sure I would keep. And then we'll kind of do like my last minute, sorry, I've got like a lot of decks sitting out on my table. There, little space. So then we'll get into the, like, making the last minute decisions. So the first oracle deck that I would definitely keep would be Soul Cards. And this is Soul Cards 1. And, like, I know that this deck has been around for a really long time. It only came into my collection this summer. And I love it. So in my video where I talked about the different ways that I read with different oracle decks, I talked about this deck. And when I'm doing a reading, either a larger spread for myself or reading for somebody else, I like to have at least one deck that really brings in a certain level of very intuitive feeling, preferably like in my body, like a very physical feeling into the reading. This deck does that. I have a couple of indie decks that do that as well, but for mass market decks, this is the only one that does it. It also has a very shamanic sort of feel to me. I wouldn't want to be without this deck. Like, I love Soul Cards 1. I use it a lot. It pairs with almost all my other tarot decks, all my other oracle decks. It's very versatile, and like I said, it really brings in that level of very intuitive feeling into a reading, which I really like. And I have that video on reading, how I read with different oracle decks in a reading, if you want to kind of see more about that. Okay, so then the next deck, oracle deck, I know for sure I would want to keep would be Woodland Wardens. Now, this one also new. This one is just, I think, newer in general. Like, it might have even been a 2022 deck. I'm not sure if it's on the box. This is a very popular deck right now. I love it for a few reasons. I also talked about this in that video where I talked about reading with tarot and oracle together. It's beautiful. It pairs well with other decks. I am in Wisconsin in the United States, and most of these animals you can find here. Like, there are a few you're not going to find in this area, but there are lots of, like, North American animals. Like, we have porcupines. We have crows. So I like that about this deck. There is definitely something to be said for decks, animal decks that have animals that are not from where you are. But I also think that there is absolutely something to be said working with plants and animals that live in your area, in your biological region. And so this deck has that for the animals. A lot of these plants also do grow here or will grow here, but not all of them. But anyway, along with that it has animals that actually live in my region. Like, here's one that doesn't, but you do find this antelope in North America. I like the keywords. They're very short and to the point, so it makes for a good clarifier. you can, so what I'm going to get here is versatility. This is a very versatile Oracle deck. So for example, like if we look at, I'm just going to grab one in the guidebook. So if we look at salamander and black pepper, there's the picture, right? And then we have the inspiration is the keyword. So we can go off that really quick to the point keyword. We can also bring in salamander energy, and we can bring in the plant energy. So we can bring in that plant and animal medicine to the reading if we want. It also has upright and reverse meanings, and it also has like journal prompts or meditation prompts or something like that. You could also pull more cards off those prompts. So I just think that this is a really versatile deck as far as Oracle is concerned. It's probably in my top 3 decks of all time, Oracle decks of all time for that reason, is that it's just versatile, beautiful, and it pairs with everything, and it has all the animals that are like really important to me personally in it. Okay, so that is Woodland Wardens. The next deck that would definitely make the list is the Divine Feminine Oracle. Now, this is by Megan Watterson. This is definitely a deck that I have seen some issues with the artwork. Like, not everybody likes the artwork on it, and I totally get that. This was my first deck ever. This was the first deck I ever purchased. I had read Megan Watterson's her books, both her books, but especially, or she has a few, but I'd read 2 of her books, especially Mary Magdalene Revealed. That's the title of the book. And it literally changed my life reading that book. I still reread it whenever I am struggling with something on a spiritual level. I love that book. So anyway, she had an Oracle deck. I thought it was pretty, and I thought it would be cool to read through the guidebook and like learn all these different myths and things. And I had such a flooring experience with it, such a shocking, flooring first experience with a deck, that it sent me down the rabbit hole of Oracle decks and tarot. And so this is the deck that started it all for me, and I have a very deep connection with it for that reason. I do find this deck to be more versatile than perhaps other people do. So on each card we have the name of the divine figure. So this deck has poets, mystics, goddesses, it has a lot of different types of divine feminine figures. We have the name. We have like a title. So this is Sekhmet, the Red Lady, and then there's like a phrase too, like a key phrase. I am pure strength. I honor my anger by giving voice to it. I can get a lot off of a card like this. The guidebook too, though, especially if you're new to working with divine feminine goddesses, archetypes, figures, it's a really great guidebook. You get who she is, you get the story, then you get kind of like a meaning for the card, and then you get a soul voice meditation prompt as well as an intention. So it's a really solid guidebook. Anyway, I should just probably do a full review on this deck as well, because I do love this deck. I would never ever want to be without it. I can get a lot of information off of a deck like this in a reading. So I use this deck a lot to kind of cap a reading, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling about the Divine Feminine Oracle because I love it. And I would never ever want to be without it. Okay. So then, another Oracle deck I'm definitely putting on the list is the Fairies Oracle by, wow, his name has completely escaped me. Brian Froud. It's right there. Okay. This deck is an interesting one because it's, at least at this point, it's not really a deck I can use without the guidebook. However, it is so spot on and honest and accurate, and I just think that, like, if I'm going to narrow myself down to 10 decks, not only is this a very powerful deck to have in that collection, it also is going to make me work for it and make me study. And I think, like, if we're only going to have a handful of decks like this, you kind of want to have one like that. One that's going to keep things interesting for you. So this deck. And I do like this deck with the Hush Tarot, by the way, too. I think that they have very interesting conversations. So that's the Fairies Oracle. I don't use this deck a ton, so it's a little bit surprising that it made this list, but I keep meaning to work with it more. And so for that reason, another reason, I think I would keep it I would put it on this list of top 10 mass market decks because it's powerful. It would keep me interested. It would give me something to study. And I do want to use it more. Like, it's a deck I keep meaning to connect with more. Okay, so where are we? So we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decks total. Okay, so we're going to do one more deck that I know for... I'm looking at 5 decks here. Okay, I've got 2 spots. I'm looking at 5 decks. But I think that Sacred Rebels by Alana Fairchild has got to get on the list. I think that if you like this type of Oracle deck that is really got a lot going on and the guidebook is very meaty and it's very spiritual path based or whatever, I mean, I think that you've got to have like an Alana Fairchild deck. If that's your style of Oracle. If it's not, then like obviously you don't need it on your list. But it is my style of Oracle. I have quite a few of her decks. And I think this is the one that I would keep. I use this a lot reading for other people as well as daily draws for myself. I have found that it just really brings in a really powerful layer of information into a tarot reading. And I don't know that I have put it next to any deck that it didn't look nice next to, like aesthetically. So anyway, the Alana Fairchild deck, because I also think that this is a powerful deck. It's very, I also think it's versatile. It's beautiful. And I would want it, I would just want it. That's all. Okay. So I've got two left. And sorry about my dog. If you can hear the dog barking downstairs, it's very windy here and my dogs tend to get a little barky when it's windy. Okay, so I've got 2 spots. Let's see, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so what I'm looking at here is the Sun and Moon Tarot. I have Seasons of a Witch Yule Oracle. The Alice in Wonderland Oracle. And then this is the Herbiary and Bestiary Oracle. I don't have the guidebooks handy. The links to these will be in the description box below for anybody who's looking for them. I have them combined. So if I put this on the list, I'm cheating, but still. And then I have the Mystical Shaman Oracle as well, which I really, really like. But honestly, it was kind of one of these two. So I think that this is a runner-up. So I have 2 spots left on the list, and I've got 4 decks. And I think that Alice in Wonderland is going to be a runner-up. I think that we're going to have to put this one on the list next. Now, the story of how these 2 decks came into my life is kind of long. Here's the thing about this deck. These 2 decks, I should say. I don't actually love the artwork. Just personally, like, I don't love it. But I understand it. And in combination with the keywords, it's just so accurate. Like, it just really helps me pinpoint things in a reading, whether I'm reading for myself or somebody else. And it just speaks to my intuition. The artwork and the keywords in combination. And then, of course, like, I haven't spent a lot of time with the guidebooks, but I keep meaning to, because you could definitely bring in, not only do you have, so here, like, grow your truth as the keyword, and then you have the image to go off of, which for me would just, this image for some reason could bring up so much in a reading. You could also, like, dig into the guidebook and look at the card meaning and bring in, like, black snake. So, you've got that animal energy you could bring in. So, even though I already have, like, Woodland Wardens on the deck and that has animal and plant energy in it, I still think that I would keep these 2 decks. And I'm going to cheat and call them one deck because that is how I use it. So, like, here, Navigate Life with Determination, Red Salmon, Defying Gravity, Reishi, and there's like a little caterpillar, Renew Your Life, Sea Eagle. Like, it's one of those decks, like, for some reason, like, I don't want to love it, but I just do. I don't know. If I'm narrowing it down, this deck works so well for me that I have to, like, begrudgingly keep it. Okay, so then we've got 2 left, and I think that I'm actually going to go with Seasons of the Witch. And here's why. Now, this deck, even though I really don't like the backing, like, the whole collection, This backing just does not do it for me. And it's fairly challenging for me to work with the deck when I don't like the backing. So this is the only deck on the list that has made it, even though I actively do not like the backing. There are plenty of backing here that I don't love, but I actively dislike this one. This deck is not a deck I would use year round. And it's not, I love this deck, but it's not the most powerful deck on the list. But here's the deal. Winter where I live is so long. It is so long. And I love this deck, and it helps me to see the magic and the beauty and the value of winter. And winter is, I live in northern Wisconsin. You can, 30 minutes north, you hit the lake. Okay, I'm almost as far in Wisconsin, north in Wisconsin, as you can possibly get. It is one of the, not the, but one of the coldest places in North America. And then we get really hot summers too. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, November 1st, it's basically winter here, and we're going until May. Like, it is going to be cold, it is going to be snowy. And the only way to get through a winter like that is to find the beauty and the magic in it. And this deck just helps me do that, because it's like all the good things about winter. Okay? So that's why this deck is going to make the list. And I use this deck November, December, January, and then it kind of starts to I kind of switch over to other things. But I would keep this deck, even though it's a seasonal deck for me, for that reason alone. And if I lived somewhere where winter wasn't so long, then I probably would have not put that deck on the list. So a few just honorable mentions real quick. This is the Sun and Moon Tarot, and I'm already regretting not putting this on the list, but I don't know which one I would swap out for it. But this is Sun and Moon Tarot. I have trimmed and edged mine because I don't like keywords on my tarot decks, because I find them distracting. This was my first deck. So the Ember and Aura Tarot is the first deck that I worked with a lot, but it was on pre-order. And so I actually had this deck for like a month before I had my Ember and Aura deck. And like, it's just so cute. It was hard for me as a beginner because it has Thoth, I believe, and Rider-Waite-Smith in it. But it's just like so cute. And now that I'm a little bit more of a seasoned reader, it's an easy reader. I just really like everything about this deck. And that's all I have to say about that. Like, I just like everything about this deck. I'm already regretting not putting it in the list, but I don't know what deck I would swap out in order to have this. So there's that. Alice the Wonderland Oracle. I don't really love this imagery. I cannot think of the Jasmine Becky Griffith. That's her name. The artist's name. And no, like, I am not slamming the artist or the art. It's just not for me. Art is very subjective, right? I said this Oracle deck, I know a lot of people don't like this artwork. It's subjective. The thing about this deck is that it's a great shadow work deck, and it's an excellent clarifier. So it didn't make the list because I have other decks on the list that I think would do this for me, where the artwork also speaks to me more. However, it is an honorable mention, and I wouldn't really want to let it go out of my collection at this point, but that's just why I didn't make the list. But it's a good shadow work deck. It's an extremely powerful clarifier, and so it's definitely a deck worth having. And then the final honorable mention is the Mystical Shaman Oracle. And while, like, the Fairies Oracle made the list, even though I haven't worked with it a ton, and I still have to get to know it, this one I also haven't worked with a ton, but it just didn't make the list because I feel like the other things on the deck, other decks needed to come first. But I do really love this deck. So this is the Mystical Shaman Oracle. So it has multiple authors, and I will say that I have found this deck to be very accurate. I have found this deck to be good for shadow work, especially if you need a gentler approach. I love the art. I love that it is shamanic. I love that, so it works very much with like the natural world. This deck and me very much jive together. So I really like this deck. And again, like, now that I'm talking about it, like, I'm sad that it's not on the list, but like, I don't know what deck I would take off the list in order to put this one on it. So those are kind of my honorable mentions. Mystical Shaman Oracle, Sun and Moon Tarot, and the Alice the Wonderland Oracle. So, yeah, those are my honorable mentions that, honestly, I wish were on the list, but I don't know what decks I'd take off. So those are my top 10 decks, top 10 mass market decks. Like I said, I've been wanting to kind of to do like a little list like this for a while anyway. So it's definitely mostly Oracle. But honestly, like, if these were the only 3 tarot decks I could ever use again, I could still do like that Hush Tarot, the Hidden Realms Tarot, and the Tarot of the Abyss are very, between the 3 of them, they're very versatile and they could keep me busy for a very long time. So those are my top 10 mass market. I would love to hear your top 10. I've been having a lot of fun watching all these videos, and I will see you in the next video, guys. I hope you're having a great day.